Heroes and Legends, the Second Great War. The first spin began their invasion of complete eradication. They started out with the first galaxies that had been tormented and led left to bear and had great casualties during the war prior. The beginning of the end had come at last. For the Commonwealth, Lady Sun, for her efforts, was praising the sun as usual, asking and praying for a miracle, as Envision and Clayton and all the rest of the Commonwealth looked on, but not directly at the sun, of course. Lady Sun noticed a great fire was approaching. She couldn't believe it. It was the sun coming down in human form to help them. She praised the sun. However, the other Commonwealthans, shocked as they saw a large contingent flowing down from space. It was none other than Raleigh Sayers, who had ability to control fire. She light herself up with a flaming sword and cut down Lady Sun, along with her sworn friend, Shanae Simonet, the little sister of Simonet, and Maki, with a double face, scared the bejeebus out of Commonwealthans. The first spin had arrived. The Commonwealthans were unaware of the situation, and they were easily cut down. Envision had lost. One of the oldest pillars and governors of the universe had fallen. And then the eradication of the Commonwealth galaxy. Man, woman, and child, even plant and animal, were all wiped out, burst and convulsed in flames. Nothing but ashes in the entire galaxy. The first spin will begin to make their hellish mark, their hell march. The apocalypse for the universe had now officially begun. Elsewhere, in the two galaxies that the Fidelians were supreme, Morgan led the insurance side. There, a strange enemy appeared before him. MacDonald and Philando, the two generals of the first spin, had arrived. At each point within the main planet where Morgan was, scores and scores of enemies were approaching. Morgan was overwhelmed and had no choice but to flee. Many of his men risked their lives to try to save him. They came to the side of their Lord Fedral. As more and more people came, Morgan became overwhelmed. He went to the ship, but there was so little of them that the ship was made too big for them to manage. The instant, the Fidelians' insurance had fallen, and the two generals and their forces stayed in the galaxy, eradicating them from existence one by one. As Morgan retreated, he alerted his lord. Fedral and the others were scared, as Fedral could no longer turn to the Phoenix. Maybe that would have helped them. However, Morgan had a plan. They will seal off all access points to the planet. So even if the enemy will come, then they will have no way to get to them. And thus they will defend their galaxy. As many of the small planets and regions around the Fidelian galaxy were being consumed and destroyed, the Fidelians hauled up in the main solar system, where the main capital planet was. The people were scrambling, refugees. It was a crisis. Sickness and disease, hunger, starvation quickly consumed the galaxy in an instant. But this time, the general of the left, Hepburn, had arrived to finish off the Fidelians and the Phoenix once and for all. And so Hepburn's plan was simple: cause mass hysteria and allow the enemy to trap themselves. Morgan thought he was countering the enemy because of the previous attack, but he was no match for Hepburn's superior military strategy, as his military strategy was to use the own enemy strategy against them. This worked perfectly. With all the escape and entry points blocked off, Hepburn didn't even have to go to the battlefield. He sent a small contingent of troops. The Fidelians thought they were winning, but however, it was a trap. Hepburn then scorched the entire planet in a sea of crimson flame. Everyone, men, women, children, burned alive. Then the main Fidelian troops, Clunhead burned, and MacDonald and Flando appeared on the battlefield to slaughter the rest of the elite officers. Morgan fell in the chaos, having failed his lord. Vigil tried hard to use the fight to his advantage, to fight as the last of his people, but he was quickly overwhelmed by the generals and troops of the first Spain. With that, the Fidelians, who was one of the oldest and most powerful powers, fell within an instant. Nothing was left but an empty shell of moons, suns, and dead planets. The galaxies were lost. Seeing the destruction happen across the universe, all other planets prepared for war and huddled to their homeland. The Noah, led by Victoria Norma, did not know what the hell was going on, since they had been cut off, since they ran out of supplies. Still, she sent Omega to spy on the other powers. Omega accepted this and decided, yes, I will go. We will see what these people are up to. And so he took his small contingent and left the galaxy in search of information on what was happening. But, however, it was all for naught. As Omega turned back around to the galaxy, he noticed strange explosions happening everywhere. And he tried to reach out to his leadership and the other allies. They were being attacked by Taylor and his half-twin siblings, Eren and Araka, and their forces. The Nuwa, who were now the weakest of the Insurn, stood no chance. The galaxy, the planets, the moons, the armies, and their peoples that were already in a financial crisis and already bankrupt because of the long failed invasions fell in an instant. Omega was now the last of his people, seeing that he was a Bashar, and the Bashars were with Michael and Shun, and having gained intel from being in space, that Michael and Shun was leading these hellish beings into the extermination of the universe. The only wise thing for him to do, as he told his commanders, was to join Shun Manakant and help fight in his war. That would be the only way they would survive this onslaught. So Omega surrendered to Michael and Shun, and the Michael and Shuns grew in size and strength. Seeing the success of wiping out 3 of the main galaxies that would play a part in the previous war, Simnet, Kyra, Milio, Shani, and the leaders of Scotia and the City Group returned to the main capital planet of Civic Firspin, where they had their death march. All the armies and the generals marched behind Kara, who was floating with her telepathic abilities, and she was opening the portal to divide their forces to different aspects of the rest of the remaining galaxies, to wipe them out once and for all. It was a fun affair for Shani, as she jumped and screamed and was giddy. Yay, yay, yay! She cried at the death march. Kill them all, death to all of them. As Shani and others were celebrating, Prince Six was also there with his contingent. Avon and Scotia Wallace looked at their prince, worried, with grim face. He was now coming to grips with the new reality, that Scotian would play a role in extermination of the universe. This was not conquest. This was mere slaughter of innocents. Normally, if someone did not surrender to you, you would kill the leadership and the armies. But the men, women, children, the life, all of the universe, the vast majority of it was going to be nothing but desert wasteland, like the rest of the known space that was uninhabited. Six felt a little sad, but he knew this was for survival. If Scotia was going to survive this chaos, he had to cut his ties with the rest of the universe. His men tried to comfort him, but to no avail. Six, however, had to motivate his men and prepare for war and to advance wherever they were called to be. While all this was going on, Mankind and Sharon, the one who started this all, was back on this planet, with all his cohorts and of the Nasu and his army, and King Vaughn and his wife and Alexis were all at his main capital planet, on top of a hill, a makeshift temple, but a great power was growing ever strong. Mankind Sharon explained, "Yes, don't you see it, cousin? Don't you see it? Don't you feel it? Ah, the great power. It's full at last. All the great powers, all history now in the universe. And the war is about to begin. Soon nothing, not even the first being, will be strong enough to stop me." His cousin was so pleased with his lordship, he started to cry. As for Goldstein and Zinzama, who started this, they were proud that their long efforts would finally come to fruition. As for Capri, who joined Shermankin reluctantly because the King Color, his Lord Ricardo Yellow, and the Prince of Darkness had fallen, he was feeling anxious, not knowing the fate of his home galaxy, Kichuru, whether they would be spared like how King Vaughn's forces and Nyasu and Shermankin forces were being spared. He was unsure. He wanted to find out and to know for certain if he was going to be assured that his people was living to live. And then Goldstein laughed at him and said, "Ha ha ha, the Kichuru do not serve us. Although you are here, they refuse to surrender to our God and declare him their leader. They might as well be fallen as well. How can you, Capri, a mighty warrior, be the last of your kind? Take it as a badge of honor." Capri was stunned, horrified. He thought if he joined the Shermankin, that Kichuru would be safe. However, it was all a lie. The Mankans did not care about Kichuru. They only cared about him, and he was using his strength, exploiting his strength for their own devious plots. Capri then stormed out and said to Shermankin, "I am leaving. I'm going to Kichuru to save my people." And then Zenzema, pissed off, was ordering Tashan Jr., fire arrow, kill this traitor. Shermankin told him, "No, stop, you will not touch him." Then Zenzema and Tashan Jr. had no choice but to listen to him. And Zenzema questioned his lord and said, "My lord, if you let him be," and then he said, "No. He is a great warrior. If he chooses to die in this war, then that's a warrior death he shall have." At that moment, Calvin Kinkel had arrived to see Shermankin. Shermankin laughed at Calvin and said, "Ah, so the fool has come to surrender. Don't you see that we are on the winning side? You are a fool. Why have you turned against my lord?" And Calvin Kinkel said, "I'm not coming to fight you as much as I want to. I'm coming to serve like old times sake. Let us see if the universe can withstand you and overpower you in your first spin weapons." And Sherman was stunned. Can Carlo come for chat to watch the war? Well then, Calvin, I accept you. Know that you will be the last of your race as well. And so the two watched while there was going on. Uyui, who had recovered, is now preparing to resurrect himself and make himself known. Nemo had left the dimensions to go on the side. Uyui's younger brother Four and his sister Ria were also planning to go. Four asked his brother, "Lord brother, are you ready?" Uyui said yes. "It has been too long since the universe has saw me. Now playing dead to my advantage is over. I have gained great knowledge from the tree of forbidden knowledge, and I found a way to defeat King Vaughn and Shermankin at once. We use these abilities to go and end them. We just hope that the rest of the universe could hold out until then. It's going to be a long trip between here and Mannequin Galaxy. Let us go, man. And so the band rushed off on this ship towards the final battle. The war begins. Q, the master of elements, and his forces invade the Aegean galaxy. There, Elysian and the Aegean clan and their forces prepared for war against the man of elements. They try using their powers and abilities of controlling lightning against him. However, he countered them with water, attacking them with his own lightning attacks. Fire, moving the earth. The earth was crumbling all around them. They had no choice but to go to their ships. They were being short-circuited by his amazing might. Not to mention the strong soldiers and mechs of the army. Many began to die in the battle. All the elite officers of the Aegean, Elysian and Rifo, the Aegean and Janice Ahi and Gibbon and Protein E all fought bravely. Dur, PlayStation 50 and GE Bolt all faint for their lives. However, those three, Plastic 50, G Bolt, and Dur, would survive, as Gibbon and Protein had died in an explosion. And PlayStation 50 said, "Oh, those two knuckleheads that always got us in trouble." So they died together. It's a bittersweet moment. As Plastic 50 went on to fight on, the galaxy was completely overwhelmed by the enemy. Next, in the Cabelon, Malaysia, the floating woman with a great giant spear and her forces attacked the Cabelon, the small galaxy, where Rex was fighting bravely against the firstborn hordes. However, him and many of his forces were falling one by one. Rich trying to survive, as Melissa was having victories and sparing with a giant spear, slicing and dicing and killing the men. However, Rich fought on, but Rich's sword skills were no match for Mercer. His sword was knocked off his hand, and then his head was ripped from his shoulders with one powerful swing. Whoosh! It was over. And few Cabelon troops remained, still fighting on. It was a very devastating time. Next was the Battalion, where the pretty boy Jamie and his forces led the way and tried to court Batalakana and said, "If you be my wife, I will spare you and your people. All you have to do is surrender to me." Batalakana honestly refused and said she was willing to die instead of doing so. Her nephew Sim was furious by this attempt to whoosh his aunt in disrespect. "Don't you know she is the leader of the Batalika, the strong and mighty Batalika, the leader of the Golden Army, the harbinger of the Silver Excellence? You will pay. Silver Excellence, come forth." The Silver Excellence flew high and mighty in the skies of Batalika, where it began to bombard the Civic Firstborn forces, delaying the mechs from transforming upwards. Jimmy was stunned and overwhelmed, so he took out his own cleaver and prepared for battle against Sim and Batalakana. The other Batalikans and Leon and Leonard also fought hard and long, and they managed to hold off against Jamie and his forces. And then Batalakana got news that Heli, Yassine, had fallen in battle. She quickly went to Yassine to bring reinforcements to them before they were completely fallen. Sim told his aunt that he will lay the charge against Jamie, and so she left. When she arrived, Yassine was barely destroyed. Door, Plaster 50, and GR Build, and a few loyal officers were left. She raced towards Heli, who was dying on the floor. She picked her up in her lap She cried bitterly for a friend, knowing that the war had torn them apart, but at the same time had brought them closer. Ellie told Batankana, "We are old women now," crying, coughing. "It's over. Our days of war have exhausted both of us. We will now never able to live out our lives in peace the way that we envisioned." But Talakana said, "No, Ellie, don't die on me. Please, there's still so much more that we could do. We could do for the universe and for ourselves." And then Ellie took up her hand and rested on the cheeks of Talakana, who was weeping bitterly. "You must lead the future. Builder Run might be finished, but the Batalakan's future will forever grow and shine on. Be sure that our people are managed safely and with honor and dignity under the King Cutler." And with that, Helene seemed had draw her last breath, and it was all over for her. But Talakana cried bitterly and then let her body go and began to fight for the Unseen and against the first being, full of anger and rage. Old Manji and his forces went to the Watermans, a largely watery planet full of underwater people and islands, so there wasn't much to conquer as he fought, but Jumbi and his strategy was willing to outdo this old man. And so, old Manji, expecting nothing but water attacks, decided that he'll bring giant dryers to dry off the water that will come to him as he advanced forward towards Aquila and her main unit. However, Jumbi had a plan. Just like the failed invasion of the Kibla, he too will use this to outwit the Frisbin with fire attacks and ambushes and a plaza full of fire as he lured them in, pretending to be Aquila. Old Man J was stunned. How could these young punks fool me like this? How impossible. How could a whole power dedicated to water play with fire like this? It makes no sense. And then John May said, "This is our element of surprise. We are masters of water, but you also play with fire. You are a fool to think and overconfident to think that you could easily outdo us. Feel the power of the Watermans." So the first bin will hold off and be in the lead at Waterment. So as for Prince Six, he arrived at the Royals. The Scotia were about to defeat the Royals once and for all, as he recognized themselves as the oldest banker, and the Royals, who always claimed top dogs in bankrun, now realized their history. But Finkelbo and Aheldo helped Kersner and the other royal officers against Prince Six and Avalon and Scotia Wallace. They began to fight the Royal Finkel forces against the Scotian army. However, the Scotia army were not as powerful as the first been, but they were normal. They put the entire military, Galaxy's military, on a simple quest to eradicate the Finkel and the Royals once and for all. But they underestimated the Royal and Finkel because they were two galaxies versus one, and the Scotian were not Demon Axe Slayers. And so the Scotian had their last stance. Alvan, who was one of the longest serving Scotian, fell, and then Scotia Wallace fell, protecting his lord. And then Kersner and Finkelbo worked together to slay Prince Six, who died. As he took the finishing death blow from both of them, he cried out, "Oh, so this is where Scotia ends. I was a fool." And then the young prince died. The Scotian and his armies were no more. This was the first victory for the universe, as the situation was bleak. However, Galaxy was still wiped out. This was a bittersweet victory for the royal thinker, but survival of the fittest was the order of the day. Elsewhere, the Citigroup, led by Banku, began their advance. The oldest allies of the first spin were strong, and they attacked the central Banku that was led by Lufasang. Lufasang and Banku were on the same side as Queen Alexa, who trapped the first spin, who had no idea that the first spin even existed. Now they were fighting on opposite sides. Still they hold on as two friends fought. The Bankran Baha, led by Prophet Elam, and his other officers, fought bravely against the central Banku and the few first Spain troops that was along with them. The Prophet fought hard and well, used the power of God and the Holy Spirit, and they owned the faith and determination to survive and overcome the death that was upon them. However, Lufasang and the central Banku will indeed overpower that of the Citigroup, and the Citigroup and Banku will fall before Lufasang and the said Bank. And as Banku began to fire, Lufasang quickly grabbed his friend and held him up and said, "Don't die on me." And then Banku said, "We have chosen, coughing of blood, the wrong side of history. Please survive and forgive my people's foolish actions." And he said, as later as Central Banco, you make sure the city crew are managed well, but not wiped out. You have my word, my friend. And then Banku smiled and said, "My people are in good hands." And then he died. Lufasang gave a loud yell and screamed as his friend died in his arms, but the battle still raged on. Elsewhere, Karon Bankudana, the house first been have Scotian, is fighting against the Kichuru. The Kichuru were being slaughtered. Wendy Win and M. Fry Boo had already died. The Kichuru were losing officers and troops, and the people and innocents were being slaughtered now that the defenses were breaking down. Mahako and Johns fought as they were the last leaders of the Kichuru. This was it, John said. Marco, who was now the de facto leader of Kichuru, wished that Capri was here, or someone of the sort. Now that Kichuru was on the verge of falling, Karon Bankuna was impatient. He wanted to eradicate Kichuru quickly so he could go on and help Alvin Yolando destroy Madonia. However, bursting from the skies at the pivotal moment, Capri and his hand inside his mech had arrived. The Kichuru, including Johns and Mario, screamed and shouted for joy. "Huzzah! Huzzah! Capri! Capri, our Lord is here! The Lord of Kichuru is here!" They thought Capri had died, not knowing that he was alive, but he had come and returned to save his people. Karon Bankran, who was a giant and almost the same height as Capri's mech, asked, "Aren't you that Capri that is with Insurance Mannequin? Have you come to assist me in wiping your own people?" And he said, "Hell no. I have resigned from Insurance Mannequin. I have come to save my galaxy from you and wipe you out once and for all." This was the first time that someone directly challenged one of the leaders of the first spin. Karam Bankudana is now about to face off against a pissed off Capri, having seen many of his own people slaughtered by this force. And he said, "If I win and destroy you, you and your forces must leave here and never return." And then he said, "Okay, fine. But if you die, Kichuru and Madonia die with you." And then he agreed. And so the two began to clash as the earth moved and shook by the first interactions as the battle began. And Shiramankan and King Carlo still looked over the battlefield as this amazing fight was going on. While that was happening, Cal Blanc and Beneby, the adopted brother of Simnet, who could breathe in space, was fighting the Scholasticans. Led by Scholastica and the Scholasticans, the army, the heritage, the oaks, the Scorpions, the Sasa, the Collagen, the Ui clan, the Yubi, all of them were fighting bravely in space, in their ships. However, inside, over the main planet of Yui, it was Mona that was now the leader, since the rest went on a secret mission. And she said, I am the leader of the Yui clan. You will face me now. Kel Blanc had a secret mission to go to Scholastica to destroy the tree of knowledge. It was forbidden knowledge that inferior beings in the universe should never have. So her task was to destroy it. And seeing that Mona was in her way, the two fought and clashed. Mona tried bravely to box her up, but it was no avail. But Mona hold on. There's something within her was keeping her at bay. While this was going on, Beneby was challenging the space hordes of Helix forces, along with Naru, who was there. They fought hard against Beneby, who was throwing people in space and causing them to die. And so the ground was to keep Beneby on the ground so that he will not have advantage over them. And so the battle went up deep in the skies and eventually into space. Kel Blanc didn't need air. She adapted to breathing for up to 100 hours, holding her breath without air. She was stunned that a model like Mona was able to survive, let alone fight in space. But Kel was getting pissed off and tired. And so she landed a serious blow on Mona, who tried to block it but couldn't. She blasted off straight course through the moon, one of the many moons of Yui, destroying the moon instantly. Mead and Social and Law and all others saw it. They were stunned. Was this the end for Mona? Mona blasted through the moon, floating in dead space. Kel said, this is the leader of the holders of the great forbidden knowledge? She laughed. I could hear the wedding bells now. Me and Millie are about to be married very soon. As she laughed and laughed and laughed. However, Mona was flown in space. But she had been reading secret texts of the forbidden knowledge and was able to reach deep down inside her to transform herself into a super being, something similar to a prime, but not quite. But anyway, then she opened up her eyes and transformed into a big giant warrior and zoom past the moon rubble and hit Kel Blanc, who was still laughing hysterically, closing her eyes laughing, and zoomed straight to her gut. Then the force caused Kel Blanc to cough up her own blood from her mouth. The first time any Fremen first being ever saw their own blood in millennia. It was devastating. Mona had transformed herself into Super Mona, and now this was beginning of the tide that was turning in the favor of the universe. While this was going on, Alvin Yolando was attacking the Madonians. He was the Grand General of the First Being and leader of the Chekdon. And Sipan, one of the last of the original generals of Merel, and the last of the non-Macedonian forces in Macedonia was fighting bravely, fighting and getting past all the way straight to Alvin Yolando himself, and said, "On my dying day, I vow to die for Metal. And now his daughter Clefel leads us, and for her I will die too. I will take you down with me." And then Alvin Yolando stood steadfast until Sipon come. Sipon tried to crush him with his giant arms, but Alvin stood there, being not affected by the attack. And then he raised up his hand, blocked his second attack, and then put his other hand together into a makeshift blade, stabbing Sipon in the gut, and then took it out. All of Sipon's guts and blood oozed out of him, and then he was kicked right in the jaw, and Sipon went flying miles away from the front line back to the barracks of Madonia. Fair met El had come out to the battlefield under retirement. Madonia was on the verge of destruction. He will not sit back in retirement and hide. He will fight to the end. But Sipon came and died right in front of him. He was stunned. He tried to heal him and sent healers to heal him immediately as he went to the front line. Alvin Yolando was not moving, however, and the slaughter of Macedonian had not begun. He is waiting for Coron Bancuda to arrive and to return. To arrive and to finish the Macedonians together after Kichuru was no more. He is wondering what was taking him so long. What was taking him so long? Coron Bancuda, Scotia half, is proven to be his weaker half because Capri was destroying him. He was using the full strength of his mech and using all kind of abilities, firing lasers, firing guns, making pause and more missiles and guns to appear, dashing in the speed of sound, hitting Coron Bankudana from all directions, cloning himself. Bankudana was trying to hit, but it's nothing but a shadow figure of Capri. Then Capri came from behind, the side, the top, the subside, everywhere, attacking him. Coron had never been so overwhelmed by a mere mortal, ever. And then Capri said, "You are nothing. I have destroyed gods, leaders, undead leaders, and many other. I have faced down death itself and won. You are nothing to me. I have even defeated the Atlantean primes in my time." At that point, Coron Bancuran opened up his eyes and said, "What? He defeated our Atlantean prime?" And he said, "Yes, the last of the Atlanteans, I and I alone slain. Now you will feel the true power of the Kichuru." And then he went to his secret attack, which was to burst himself into flames, push against the enemy, lift the enemy up, sky high, miles in the sky, lightning speed, and force them back down in a fiery blaze like a firebird. And he went his ultimate attack, Death Explosion. At that time, Coron Bankunana, Furby inside, was burning up. This was the power of someone who could slay the Atlanteans. The Atlanteans were the only power that ever defeated the first being. And he was dying. His Scotia side was also dying now. Coron shouted out, "The Bankuran are no more. We are defeated. Lord Simonet, Lady Shani, Lady Carol, Master Milio, my friends, I'm sorry." And then he landed, was slammed by Capri. A big explosion, that of a nuclear bomb, could be heard and seen. The force of it shook the entire planet. The first being troops were shocked and horrified. How the hell could this happen? Some trying to justify it and said it was his Scotian half was the weaker half. That's how this happened. And then, walking unscathed, was Capri in his mech, as he lift up his hand and brushed some of the fire away from him. It was a very, very intense and awesome scene. The mech was clean, without any damage. fire and destruction was all behind him, and it did not faze him. The first being was shocked and horrified, did not know what to do. And then Alvin Yolando got word that that's what happened, that Count Bangkunono was defeated, and he was